very pleased to report that it's the best day of the week. No, not Friday, it's New Guitar Day. A few weeks back, I put together a review of the Legator Ghost G6X. This was the first time I had ever tried a headless guitar. Those of you who have seen that video will know I was absolutely blown away with that guitar, and I actually named it my favourite reviewed guitar of the year in my end of year awards video that I put up a couple of weeks back. I had that guitar with me for a period of about 3 weeks, supplied by the good folks at Live Louder for review, and due to the experience I had with that guitar and my first ever headless, I decided that I simply could not bear to live any longer without having a 7-string headless guitar in my life. I am primarily a 7-string player. I would say probably 3/4 of the time I spend playing guitar is on a 7-string. And so let me introduce you to my new 7-string headless. This is a Legator Ghost 7 limited edition anniversary model. Have you ever had one of those days where you don't set out to buy something, you just have a thought that it might be nice to get something, you put some feelers out, and before you know it, you've committed to making an extremely extravagant purchase? Well, that's exactly how this came to be in my hands. I spoke to the good folks at Live Louder and I explained that I had had such a nice time reviewing the 6-string Ghost that they'd supplied me that I was really quite keen on the idea of getting hold of a 7-string headless for myself. Now, I genuinely had no idea that this guitar was something Live Louder had in stock. I thought maybe they could order me something in, or I don't know, because I had a really specific set of criteria. I knew I wanted to get a headless 7-string, but I really wanted a bolt-on just because I much prefer the kind of snappy, bright sound of a bolt-on, and I just thought it would work really well with a headless construction. And I was lucky enough just to inquire at the time that Live Louder had in stock one of these bad boys. So this is, as I mentioned, an anniversary limited edition run. This guitar and the anniversary series was made to commemorate 10 years of Legator. Now, I have spoken with Ryan at Legator, shout out to Ryan if you're watching, just to find out how many of these things they produced. And he confirmed to me that there's actually only 100 of these 7-string headless anniversary models anywhere in the world. They only did a run of 100. They're never going to make any more again. So boy, was I in the right place at the right time to now call this guitar my own. Now, the Legator Ghost range encompasses everything from entry-level kind of S models all the way up to the top of the line X series, which was what I reviewed with that 6-string model a few weeks back. Think of this as kind of an X series plus a little bit more. Crazily, most of the top-end Legator stuff I own and have reviewed is made in Korea, but especially just for the anniversary run, this model is made in Japan. It also has a couple of really nice, unique additions exclusive to the anniversary run as well. So we have an absolutely beautiful frosted white paint finish. It's quite tricky to show this off in footage, but it's not like a satin finish. It's almost like a frosted type finish. So kind of a matte with ever such a slight texture to it. We also have the unique addition of a roasted curly maple neck. I'm sure there have been guitars with curly maple necks in the past, but I have never seen one done. Curly maple effectively differs from normal maple just in terms of how the quilting looks. So curly maple tends to have a quilt that's perpendicular to the grain of the wood, whereas a regular quilt will go in the direction of the grain of the wood. So what that means is the fretboard and the back of the neck on this guitar just has the most incredible curly quilting quality to it. Other than that, it is kind of business as usual in terms of the usual Legator X series specs. We have lumen lay side markers, a pair of Fishman Fluence humbuckers in white. We have a really nice white chromed out Tessie LED kill switch, and a really nice addition of a bone nut, which I don't see very often on electric guitars. Some lovely and shiny stainless steel medium jumbo frets round off the package. And of course, this guitar was supplied in a very dinky but beautifully made gig bag. So you may have noticed that I haven't titled this video as a review. I may have purchased this guitar with my own money, but I am so bowled over by it and kind of in the honeymoon phase of owning it that I don't really feel like I could call this video a review, because I don't feel like I can be objective enough on it. So what I thought I would do instead is approach this video slightly differently and just tell you what my experiences have been with a headless guitar so far, why I chose one, and what the ups and downs are, and maybe hopefully that helps you guys decide if a headless guitar can be something for you or not. So when I reviewed that very first 6-string Ghost a few weeks back, I found exactly the same thing that I'm finding with this guitar. The absence of a headstock only on paper reduces the weight by a fairly small amount, but it feels like a far more dramatic gloss in weight than the specs might otherwise tell you. Now, why is a much lighter, much easier to deal with ergonomically guitar something I kind of need? Well, whenever I play guitar or I'm songwriting or just noodling on ideas, I am very rarely sat here in my office doing it. Most of the time I am sat out there in the living room on my sofa, and I will be doing other things. That is like 90% of my guitar playing. Very rarely will I come in here and go through my rack gear and all that type of thing. I just much prefer relaxing at the end of the day, having a little noodle on my living room sofa. A headless guitar is such a perfect tool for that type of guitar playing because it's tiny, so it doesn't take up a lot of room in your living room. It's super light, it's super short, so if I'm sat on the living room sofa, like I am now in this definitely not staged shot for you, the odds of me twatting the person next to me with the headstock of the guitar are just far, far reduced. Most 7-string models I own have a reverse headstock and it's absolutely gigantic and pokes out a country mile. It's just such a nice thing to be able to play a full-scale 7-string. This is a 27-inch baritone on the bottom of the multi-scale, all in my correct tuning, drop A, and in general, if there is a piece of gear that I can get my hands on that I think is going to give me a better chance of writing material or is just going to reduce the barriers between me and writing music, I will just grab it with both hands. And I think that's the main crux of why I decided I needed a headless guitar. Now, tone-wise, you know, there was some debate in the comments when I did that original 6-string headless review. But look, I can only tell you what I've found. To my ears, a headless guitar has an insanely bright, snappy tone. And this example is really no different. It's crazy bright and crazy snappy. Almost like too much with the high gain stuff. Like I'm still kind of getting used to it. You might kind of hear me a little bit struggling to just manage the amount of clarity and output this guitar has on the high gain stuff I'm playing in this video. is quite unforgiving because any mistakes I'm making are just super obvious in the way they wouldn't be with a quite dull sounding guitar. But the trade-off is the clean tones on this thing are just beautiful, so clear. Like I said, I'm playing in drop A on the bass side, and every single note just has a ton of clarity to it. And once again, as a songwriting tool, the versatility of this thing with the multi-voice Fishman Fluence pickups and the coil split and the Tessie LED kill switch, as a songwriting tool, I really couldn't ask for much more with this thing. Now, downsides. Look, there is no such thing as a free lunch in this world, and I have encountered some downsides with this particular headless guitar since I've had it. The biggest one being string changes. There is a real learning curve to doing string changes on this guitar. First of all, to remove a string from this guitar, you must first detune it using the bridge tuning peg. You then need to insert a screwdriver into the tuning peg to unlock the carriage for the string. The ball head of the string sits in a little carriage that locks backwards. Okay, not too bad. You pull it out of there, you then need to grab an Allen key and you need to unlock the string from the, let's call it the headstock, even though it isn't, it's just a locking thing for the string. That's just to get the string out, okay? Then, to put a new string in, you have to thread the ball head of the string through the saddle, hope that you can hook it into the little tuning sled thing, push it back, tighten it up with the tuning peg and the screw there. Okay, now the string's in, you pull it tight, then you have to get it through the locking bridge up here, get it in, pull it tight, turn the Allen key, lock it in there, hope you've done it right. Like, what I'm getting at here is it's a much more involved process than restringing a normal guitar. And I think once I've done it a few times, I reckon I'll probably get it down and it won't be anything worse than restringing a Floyd Rose or something like that. But I have to tell you, that first string change was rough. I had to get my girlfriend to hold the string here with a pair of pliers, pulling it tight, and I was like, no, pull that, don't, and it was like a two-man operation to do it. So there's a learning curve with restringing these things. Luckily, Legator does have some instructional videos on their YouTube page, and I'd encourage any of you new headless owners to check those out. But just be aware, string changes on this thing, complicated. There's a learning curve. It's probably going to drive you mad the first time you do it. The other downside I've run into is tuning, and that doesn't mean tuning stability, because tuning stability is epic with this guitar. Once you put it in tune, it just ain't going nowhere. What I'm talking about is just tuning this thing and the practice of doing it. You may have noticed that you have to tune this thing at the bridge with tuning pegs. Now what that means is you can't pluck a note and tune it to the attack note. So you can't go pick, 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 turn, turn, turn at the same time, which is how I normally tune a guitar. So what I found myself doing is adopting a two-handed tuning method the other way around. So I get the pick and I go pick, 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 turn, turn, turn. That way, pick's in this hand and I'm tuning with this hand. It's definitely, again, something you probably will need to adjust to. And I just thought I would mention it, like if you are planning to gig with this thing and you want to tune up between songs, you are going to have to adopt this kind of weird looking thing where you kind of swap hands with the pick and you're going to look like you've forgotten how to play guitar basically in front of your audience. So that's really the other kind of key downside I've encountered. Now that really is it in terms of things to have a moan about. Other than that, I am enjoying this thing so much. This is one of the best built instruments I've ever played. I don't know who in Japan Legator got to build these. I will inquire with them and find out. But man, this thing is utterly flawless build quality wise. The fretwork is so clean. The machining of the cavities, the hardware installation, there's just nothing to fault whatsoever. The sounds I'm getting out of this thing, this is one of the brightest, most resonant guitars I have ever played. It's so different sounding to the rest of my 7-string Legators, which I'm really happy about, because one thing I try to do with my guitar collection is I try to own guitars and each of them gives me something unique to the last one. I try not to double up on things. So I'm really pleased at how unique and bright and clear this thing sounds. A couple of months ago, I had no interest in headless guitars whatsoever. My bass player plays a headless Ibanez bass and he had always raved about it. Headless is the way to go, you should try a headless. And I had just never really fancied it. I just thought, it's not something I'm interested in. Now, how wrong I was. Again, one of the great pleasures of this channel, and I've said it before, is trying guitars and trying things that I otherwise wouldn't. Throwing myself into something that may not be for me, I don't know, but let's find out. Either way, it's going to be a new experience. I'm so glad I chose to review my first headless guitar because it's meant that this thing is now all mine. Have I sold you guys on headless? What do you think about the pluses and minuses I've identified so far? Is it something for you, something you're going to try, or is it just no, the string changes are too much of a hassle, that type of thing? Do let me know what you think in the comments. If you're a headless player, let me know what your experience has been and what guitar you are currently playing as well. Thank you so much once again for tuning into a chill guitar review. If you enjoyed this video, you can really help me out by liking and subscribing to the channel. It absolutely does help me with the algorithm gods and helps YouTube push my videos to new viewers. Better yet, I would really appreciate any support you can give me via my Buy Me a Coffee page. It's linked in the video description. Anything you can donate to me, even if it's just £1 or something like that, it's greatly appreciated. It all goes straight back into the channel as well. Until the next video, do take care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon.